Hi, intrepid viewers. Thank you, everyone who wrote in. And the majority of you have said you'd like me to keep the channel as it is. So that's what I've decided to do. And to do that is a privilege. So I thank you to have this platform. I will put out a video every 3 days looking at the political circus as it unfolds, primarily in the USA, but we also go global on this channel. And other big news immediately, of course, is that Trudeau is resigning in Canada. And it's hard to imagine the political landscape without him in some ways. And I will always take my hat off to Trudeau. He was the first, as far as I know, only world leader to go backstage at RuPaul's Drag Race Canada, and he broke ground when he did that, right? So let's hope Canada, we will be keeping an eye on this with you because we have an election coming up in May, and now fascism's been put on the menu everywhere. We're all dealing with this right-wing fallout. Now, speaking of right-wing fallout, Elon the muskrat, note how the Yeti is definitely playing second fiddle, right? You think about news and it immediately goes to Elon, right? Now, what I find interesting, since he apparently has moved into the granny flat at Mar-a-Lago, very strange. And it's a known phenomenon that when people live together or very closely, their political opinions begin to converge, their behaviours begin to mirror each other, and so forth, until it doesn't. But that's what's happening now. And you have the situation where Musk is just being so vulgar and so vile. And X, what is X now? It was a fantastic platform, and now it's just a home for bots, Nazis, and Timo ads. It's disgusting. And look at how this has happened. Now, as people merge through close proximity, we know that the Yeti is not going to get any smarter. That means, ergo, it means the muskrat is going to get dumber and dumber. And it's happening in front of our eyes. So, to the extent, is he having a breakdown? So, I'll be looking at that. So, before I get going, one more snippet, because there's always something, isn't there? The sentencing is going ahead on the 10th. And although we are all collectively stunned and disappointed and confronted by the fact that the US legal system just doesn't have an answer for the Yeti. It simply doesn't. However, from what I understand from the legal eagles, the sentencing is important in itself. It doesn't matter if he gets a $5 fine or whatever it is or isn't. What's important is the sentence has to be handed down in order for the whole legal process to be complete. We've been saying he's a convicted felon, but it's not until the sentencing comes down that actually hits the history books as a reality, as I understand it. All right. So we've got distracted from something as major as the debt ceiling is about to get a hole in it, right? So it's going to be met by about the end of January, according to Janet Yellen. So let's see. Will the GOP raise the debt ceiling? I don't see how they can't, really. They've got to know. So what's the energy around this issue of the debt ceiling? So much for the rhinos, so much for the Reaganistas, you know. Was Reagan and Star Wars or whatever his fantasy was called, remember? That's when the debt first hit the trillion back in those days. And they love him still to this day. He's the one that sent all your jobs offshore, MAGA. That was Reagan. That was neoliberalism. Arr. Okay, focus. Debt ceiling. Let's look. Okay. Oh, wow. Oh. Ah, look, these are the worst cards in the world. You've got to have a laugh, even though it's a very serious issue, in the sense that this is the beginning of their nightmare. Of course, it impacts decent people, of course. So please don't think I'm being flippant. But what I am being from a distance is going, you've created this horror, and now here you go. So decisive action does need to be taken. But oh, whoops, they can't decide how and when and stuff to actually do it with this hangman, right? And one of the elements of the hangman, well, one is delay, one is different perspective, and they come into play. But the third one, it's a sacrifice on some level. And I think that sacrifice is GOP conservative and standards. What do they have standards? I don't know what they have. They have hypocritical barriers that they move and do the limbo under. It's hard to describe these people at the best of times, but there's going to be a kerfuffle. How are we going to do it? The Yeti, I would suggest, now I've taken this devil card to be, it's a movable feast, but it could be the Yeti and the muskrat, or it could be other combinations. But the point is, chained in this case to every bad idea that's imaginable. They're stuck with it now because they've blurted it out. I say they, isn't it interesting? Mm, mm. What's next, you ask? Oh, well, that would be the tower. Look at that. And what are they going to do? I think this is going to be the card, my card from this point on, for the mythical Doge department that isn't a department, stealing things that don't belong to you. So they will do the mental gymnastics of how we can do it. So, oh, we've reached the debt ceiling. What are we going to do? I know, give a tax cut to billionaires so we lose more potential money from the pot. Excellent idea. Then what are we going to do? We're going to try and take ordinary people's money. These are the pro-lifers who do not want to give preschool children a lunch. This really. Okay. Now, so they will go ahead. That'll be a bit of a thing. Now, the other weirdness, before I get on to the rally that's been called on the 19th to do that. Who's going to be living in the White House? I don't think the Yeti's going to move from Mar-a-Lago. Melania, the Imelda Marcos of American politics, never liked the White House. I think the White House should be put up for public housing. That's my suggestion. Now, I'm diving in here on to Elon. Now, the thing is, whenever I look at this man's face, I'm reminded of the old Irish aunties who used to say, oh, he's got one of those faces you'd never get tired of slapping, you know? And he has got this sulky little puss, a bit like Don Jr., you know. But how is it how is it that he has used and abused X to such an extent it's plummeting in financial terms, just like the Yeti did with casinos in Atlantic City, Musk has done with X. It's like being in the proximity of the Yeti actually takes your IQ down 100 points. It's staggering to me. So let's have a look. Now, I'll just have a quick look at what was I going to do? Oh, yeah, the breakdown. Is the Muskie actually on the brink? Is he on the brink? Have a look here. Oh, now I didn't get my cards of addiction and that sort of thing as such. Maybe that's a given, but it went in a slightly different direction. Here's him in the center. This Nine of Pentacles is a card of someone who is comfortable in their own skin, who is comfortable with their position in life. There's a degree of satisfaction, almost complacency about this card. And I thought, what's crossing it? What's his obstacle? This is how he feels on a day-to-day basis. I think he's constantly in a state of, excuse me, I thought this was going to be easy. I could just sit back with my feet on the desk. Vivek and I could just take trillions of dollars from the American people. That should be easy. We should be able to do that. It's actually not easy, but you know where I think the tension's coming from? His fake family. Now, you remember he borrowed one of his own children. I think he gives them names that are variations from X because he can't actually distinguish between them. He's like the Yeti. The Yeti could not name his 11 grandchildren, I bet you, any amount of money. And I think Elon is similar. So this is his fake happy family. But this comes a strong woman who may speak publicly. I think this is one of the exes who's going to actually say things publicly about him as a parent. There's going to be endless legal flack over that. We already know from, I think it was 2 or 3 exes ago, he moved states and everything to avoid paying maximum child support. This is the mentality of these guys. So I think we're going to see a doozy from her, and it's going to be legal. And I think this is one of the things. This is 8 of Wands. There are many things operating that make him feel he can't actually flex his ketamine-laden wings, take any amount of drugs and it'll work for 4 hours, pet. Then you come back to real life. This is how he's thinking. Okay. All right. Now, the 19th, the Yeti has put the call out to the right-wing base. If there's any of them left who still believe in him, you have to feel it's beginning to get to a point of shifting, but we're not there yet. They will turn out, I'm sure. Michael Flynn, I refuse to use his armed services title. He's just Mike Flynn, and he's just an ex-con who should still be in jail. He wants to cancel the inauguration. What does he know that we don't? Interesting. So he's summing them there for the 19th. Presumably, he wants them to sleep in tents in the snow or, you know, in puffer jackets at bus stops and cars to be there for the illustrious event. I don't think there's ever been fewer world leaders at any major public event. But let's look at the 20th. What's going to happen around inauguration? Oh, this Nine of Pentacles comes up again. Ah, now I was shuffling the card for 5 minutes, and we're getting these repeat cards, which is really interesting. Now, in fairness, this might represent all of you guys as Dem voters and stuff, that it's come to this after all these years. It is distressing. But no, with this Nine of Swords, see the comforter here. There's carvings on the bed giving strength. This is the strength that you all have within you and within the community. So don't get too distressed with what is happening. There also might be another delay or something about it not happening, but not like that. We have to deal with what's in front of us and gather ourselves together to be part of the resistance. And this is our job, because you are not alone, America. Everyone is dealing with the far right toxic masculinity. I keep promising that video and getting distracted. So yes, it is massively emotional. And I'm sure most of you will not watch it, and that's what I would advise. So really look after yourselves. But this is where, because I think this, for him, meaning the Yeti, this is his fantasy of what the 20th should be. This is me in my accomplished state, but he didn't get his Emperor card here. I think we're only dealing with like a quarter of the persona that was there before. And in coming weeks and months, we'll be looking at this, because we could see a situation where the GOP actually ditch him, through the 25th or something. But this is him, what he thinks. But there's so much confusion going on. People are very confused about how they should and could react. I would also say on both sides. I think for MAGA, they're beginning to actually have some FAFO moments and realize, oh, my mother's not going to be able to get insulin. Oh my God, my sister's pregnant from being raped 6 weeks ago in the car park of some hideous event and can't get antenatal care and so forth. There's confusion on both sides. Excuse me. So just wait. Just wait. Don't let yourself burn out over this. Revolutions are not comfortable spaces, right? So when things have to change through total upheaval, it's very frustrating to be part of the people who could see it coming and then still have to watch the train wreck, right? And I feel that's the position that many of us are in right now. Okay. But I've got a couple of housekeeping announcements to make. I think more and more world leaders are speaking up and speaking out against the Yeti, including the president of the Honduras, Xiomara Castro, who's threatening to close the US bases. And I don't know if you were surprised. I shouldn't have been surprised, because they don't pay the rent anywhere. And certainly you should speak to Hawaiians about this. Aloha, Kia, Chanel, blessings. Honduras. They haven't paid rent since the 80s on the military base. She's threatening to close it. But the absolute comeback of all time, I think, is Elizabeth May, Canadian MP. I'm going to put the link up with her response to the Yeti. Ouch. And it deserves sharing. So, just before I go, yes, on the 10th, big day, there's the sentencing, but also at 4:30 Pacific time on the 10th, I'm on with Linda G. We're on Deanne Shieldmaiden's channel, and we've also got Tanya with us, Tanya Stringley, who's divine. Okay, so 4:30 on the 10th on Deanne's channel. And so we're having a ladies in politics conversation. So please come and join us there. And I'll see you soon. So take care, guys. All the best. Ciao.